So first item on the agenda is public comment. It's actually not the first item on the agenda, but the first thing we're going to do. So, Ray, do we have any public comment?
It does not look like anybody signed up for regular public comment.
Okay. So with that, then we'll move to the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by staff with no opposition received to date. Since some items on the consent agenda may require a public hearing, the commission will accept public comment on any item on the consent agenda in one public hearing. We had meeting minutes. So everybody had a chance to look at those, hopefully. FP 2502, Bentwood Country Club Estates, Section 46, Final Plat. A request of Final Plat Bentwood Country Club Estates, Section 46 being 14.001 acres under single-family residential RS1 zoning district located approximately east of Riviera Lane and Clubhouse Lane. We had FP 2503, Kerr Edition, Section 2, SMD number 2. A final plat for 2 residential lots across 1.329 acres within a single-family residential RS1 zoning district located at 101 West 34th Street and 3230 Grape Creek Road. And then we had RP 2502, lots 15 and 16, block 10, Ellis Edition, SMD number 3. Request to replat Ellis Edition, lots 15 and 16, block 10, located at the intersection of North Pope Street and Coberland Street. Do you have any comments on those? If not, then I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We do have 2 people that signed up for item C, Kerr Edition. We have Tara Lopez. Did you want to speak?
That's the C3?
For the Kerr Edition?
No, that's not it.
Okay, which one did you? You said C3? Pete's Valley?
The consent agenda and then the regular agenda 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking on the consent agenda right now.
Is that for the address of 2808 or 2830? Sorry.
Okay, so you're here for the STR.
Yes.
Okay, I'll change that. Then Jack has signed up to speak if you have any questions
Okay.
on any of the plats.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Candy, second by Joe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we'll move on to the regular agenda.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I apologize for interrupting,
Oh.
but there is a case that we want to withdraw that's on the zoning list. If it's okay with you, we would like to go ahead and read that in the record and then us come up and formally withdraw that if that's
Yes.
acceptable to you.
Yes, sir. Sorry I missed that. So the case that Aaron's referring to is under rezonings and comprehensive plan amendments. It is item number 1. It is Z 2501, 216 South Madison, SMD number 5. A request to rezone from single-family residential RS1 to multifamily residential RM1 to allow multi-dwelling units on one lot. Aaron, do you want to say anything about that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Aaron Benoit, Director of Planning Development Services. Just want to make sure that everybody here in the audience knows, as well as those that are watching from home, that this was a city-initiated case to look at rezoning a block from the RS1 to the RM1, which is a low-rise multifamily. After doing our discussing out in the field, talking with citizens and getting feedback, it is not a viable case to move forward, and so the city is withdrawing that case at this time, and we will not be moving forward with the rezoning in that area. We just wanted to let everybody know that we are withdrawing that case.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. So just for the members of the audience, just to clarify or reiterate, the case that was proposed in the agenda for 216 South Madison has been withdrawn by city staff. So moving on to the regular agenda. First item is conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval of conditional uses. Appeals may be directed to City Council. First case is CU 2501, 4333 Schefflera Drive, SMD number 6. A request for a conditional use for a short-term rental located in single-family residential RS1 zoning district at 4333 Schefflera Drive.
Thank you very much. Kim Garmany, Planning and Development Services Administrator. Oh, there we go. Oh, let's go ahead and get, there we go. Okay, here we are. So this application for a short-term rental is located in the Bonham neighborhood in District 6. The current zoning is RS1 and the vision plan is neighborhood. As I said, this is a request for approval of conditional use for a short-term rental. One of the things that we look at whenever we're looking at short-term rentals is, do they have enough parking? So you'll see here that there are 2 parking spots off the alley behind the home. This is a map of the notifications that were sent. We sent 20 notifications and we received 3 back in opposition. I did just want to lay out some of the opposition that was sent in because we received 3 letters, not just the usual form back. We did receive whole letters. So people in the neighborhood, and you can see the people who responded are right there on their block, that they feel that this opens up their neighborhood to business type activities, and that is not what they purchased. They felt like it was changing the neighborhood. Like I said, they want to live in a quiet neighborhood, and they feel like the short-term rental will bring in more traffic, community safety, children and pets being safe to play. More than one person called attention to the fact that there are many children and pets that play in and around this area. Because as you can see, the road dead ends right there. And so you tend to have children playing in areas like that where there's less traffic. And then a potential car rental business already being operated at the address. We did not get confirmation of that, but that was one of the concerns that was outlined in one of the letters. And then future development concerns, as you can see, the land just to the west is going to be developed soon, hopefully. And there were concerns about whether or not a short-term rental in the area would be the best for future development. Right now, you can see that there is only one other current short-term rental, and it is more than 500 feet away. So the gold is the subject property. The 2 red are both denied short-term rentals, and the green is the current operating short-term rental. So the things that we look at when we're looking at a short-term rental, does the zoning allow them? Yes. There are no other conditional uses for short-term rentals within 500 feet. The parking is adequate, and they passed their safety inspection on January 27th. So we do recommend approval for the conditional use. And of course, everyone does have to follow the guidance outlined in section 406 and 804 of the zoning ordinance.
So I just want to confirm that they provided a local operator contact,
Yes, yes,
and it's local?
yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for staff? Okay.
I have one. So you said you were not able to confirm the potential of a car rental business at that location?
No, ma'am. The letter that we received referred to a potential business, but they didn't list, what service it might be used, and so I didn't know where to start to confirm or deny that. And I did not check with the applicant ahead of time. Is the applicant I don't believe so. I don't
Okay.
believe so.
know who currently occupies the house or the potential car rental business? Is that the owner or the applicant?
I don't have the application right here. Right now, the owner does occupy the home as far as everything is concerned. Whether or not they actually live there, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Anybody else?
So I did want to remind the board that with the new ordinance, the applicant will be renewing again by June 1st, because everybody renews by June 1st. So if you do approve them, they only get a few months before they have to renew. And that includes checking police reports, code compliance, any of the neighborhood's complaints. So just so you know, they do only have a few months before.
Okay. Just for my probably benefit, could either, I guess, Brandon or Ray, could you clarify what the public comment guidance is now, or guidelines are now for under the changed structure of the way that we're doing that?
So they are, anybody that would like to speak on a specific item on the agenda does need to sign up ahead of time. I am going to be a little lenient if I have it marked wrong, like the young lady, but otherwise, they are supposed to sign up ahead of time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just to add to that, usually, and the way they have it set up is that commenters have 3 minutes to comment. It is the board chair's discretion to allow them to continue. If the applicant or the proponent is here for the case, they typically can have up to 5 minutes. And of course, they can answer questions. It really is a time for just kind of listening to citizens' comments about a case and where they stand on cases.
Thank you. So we have any public comment on this case?
Nobody signed up on this one.
Okay. So if there's no public comment, then I'll go ahead and close public comment and open up for discussion amongst the planning commission. Anybody have any comments or questions or anything? So if not, then I'll take a motion and go to a vote.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay. Motion by Brittany, second by Patrick. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That one will pass. So moving on, we'll go to CU 2502, 1536 Pulliam Street, SMD number 3. A request for a conditional use to allow retail sales and services within a light manufacturing zone district at 1536 Pulliam Street.
Ray Lineberry, planner, and this one is not an STR. It is a conditional use to allow retail sales and services within a light manufacturing zoning district. It is in District 3, Harry Thomas, and the Fort Concho East neighborhood. So we mailed out 18 notifications, and we have received 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. We did receive a phone call, but it was just a neighbor asking questions. They didn't really say whether or not they were against or for. This is the zoning. So the property is highlighted in red. I just wanted to show you how close it is to regular general commercial. There's also Roosters right next door and then Taco Bell. So it is kind of a general commercial area. I don't have it. The vision plan is also commercial. I did not have a picture of that, but the vision plan is commercial. So staff is recommending approval with 5 conditions, and that they shall generally conform to general commercial zoning district standards, that all lighting shall be fully shielded, that approaches will become compliant with the current standards, that minor landscaping will be included when they do their development plan or site plan, and that they are required to obtain any building permits, which include a change of occupancy within 6 months. With that, is there any questions?
Okay, so that's been retail in the past. It was, I think, Cody Hats for a very long time until they
Correct.
moved. This is more just directed towards the staff. Since we've got a potential retail location and then 2 fast food restaurants, are we looking at cleaning up the map so it matches the vision plan?
Staff has, since this project came to light, staff has been discussing, I'm going to go back, going ahead and doing a city-initiated rezoning of those 3 lots, the Roosters, Taco Bell, and them, so it matches the vision plan.
Okay.
So hopefully that will be coming forward in the next couple months.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ray.
Anybody else have any questions for Ray? All right. Thank you,
There's
Ray.
no public comment signed up for this one.
Okay. So if there being no public comment, I'll go ahead and go to discussion amongst the commission or a vote.
I will make a vote to approve as presented by staff.
Motion by Brittany, second by Candy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that one passes. We'll go on to CU 2504, 2830 Red Bluff Circle, SMD number 1. A request for a conditional use for a short-term rental located in a single-family residential RS1 zoning district at 2830 Red Bluff Circle.
Thank you. This one comes to you out of District Number 1, Tommy Hebert's district. We are in the Nasworthy neighborhood. The zoning here is RS1, and we have a request for approval of a conditional use for a new short-term rental. As you can see, this is a lakefront property. They do have the required parking and have passed their safety inspections. We mailed out 9 notices. As of this morning, I believe there was none in favor and 6 opposed. I've printed some of those oppositions, and you should have those available to you in front of you. Here's a look at the Nasworthy neighborhood overall right now. The blue star is our subject property, our current request. There are 10 currently active conditional uses for short-term rental in the area, as represented by the green stars. We have 1 that was expired in the yellow, and then 2 that were denied in red. As they have met all the prerequisites, we are recommending approval subject to 2 conditions: that they must follow the conditions outlined in sections 406 and 804, and that they must demonstrate that the metal carport that you saw in the picture earlier is properly permitted and meets setback requirements or come into compliance with it. That's just something that came up during the review process. Do you have any questions?
I guess same questions as before. They have a local operator,
Yes, that's something that's screened pretty early in the review process, and they do.
okay? Past safety inspection?
Yes.
I think you mentioned. Have adequate parking,
Yep.
not within 500 feet.
Nope. As you can see, there's 2 others that are close within that Red Bluff Cove. One of those actually received a zoning variance to be that close to the other one, but this one is clear, both of those by at least 500 feet.
Okay. Anybody else have?
With the comments that you received on, and gave to us this morning, one of the comments of concern was the cove being so tight, boat docks being on top of each other kind of thing. And I remember maybe a year or so ago, maybe a little longer, we denied one because of the street. This doesn't look like we had a street problem getting in for that, and you've got plenty of parking. But my concern is kind of like, how close is close? And are we putting things on top of one another? Because your 6 opposing neighbors are the ones right around it, and the concern of that small of an area. And I'm sure the concern is because it's on the lake.
Sure. Yeah, and you may take that into account. You can see from our aerial image where those property lines lie and how close they might be to each other.
Just to kind of follow up with what Candy mentioned, I truly can't remember the street. I don't know if it was on Joy Road or one.
I think it was
or
Joy
off
on
of
the end of Joy
Fisherman's, one of those. That in that particular case, based on the proximity of the backyard to one and the front yard to the other, that one was denied. Now, we did approve one that was 2 doors down.
Yes.
Because the
It was-
setup was different. And I think that, just so the public, because I know there's quite a few people here for this specific case, lake properties always have the most opposition in STRs. Unfortunately, it's a recreational lake, and we've all, understood that when we are making our decisions. So just to kind of put that out to the public in the forefront.
Okay, does anybody have anything else for Austin? All right, so we'll go ahead and open up public comment. If you could, keep your comments to
3 minutes.
3 minutes if possible. And Ray, you want to tell us?
So we have Tara Lopez.
You would state your name and single member district or address as you, before you begin your comments.
Okay. Tara Lopez, and I'm 2834 of Red Bluff Circle. And I just feel that it's, we want to oppose this because the people that live there are both retired, and one is, I guess there's a lot of home care coming in and out of the home, and I just feel like that it's not gonna work out. Because I work for the person that's in that home as well, and I'm there 20 hours a week with her. And I see the struggles that the husband goes through, like not sleeping right at night. And like I said, there's a lot of home care coming in and out of that home. So I just feel like the window where he sleeps at is just a car length away from that house. So that is my comment, and I just feel like it wouldn't work out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Just
Ms.
a
Lopez.
moment. Ms. Lopez? Just to clarify, which home is it that you're talking about with the elderly?
2834.
Okay, thank you.
It's right next door.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Judy Williams.
Would
I'm
st-
speaking in opposition to the short-term rental at 2830 Red Bluff Circle. Did you know that there's already a short-term rental on Red Bluff Circle? And if you did, why are we even having this meeting? Whoever wrote the staff report got it wrong. As of Saturday and Sunday, there was a short-term rental at 3730 Red Bluff Circle. And that is 376 feet away from the proposed one at 2830, which is considerably less than the 500 feet in section 460B3 of your regulations. So did the one at 3730 get the approvals? And if they didn't, I don't know why you're not shutting down the illegal STRs. Airbnbs are really short-term or mini hotels, and in real estate, the key is location, location, location. And if I had wanted to live by a motel, I would have bought by a motel. But we chose the property at 2834 Red Bluff Circle for a retirement home, and we remodeled so that we could age in place. I've enjoyed watching and listening to the birds and seeing the deer in the neighborhood. Usually in the wintertime, it's so quiet that you can hear the wind blowing and the student pilots flying overhead. We moved into a neighborhood and have slowly begun to meet the neighbors rather than moving into a commercial area. I feel Airbnbs belong in a commercial area as there's more crime, less oversight than traditional hotels and motels. And there are verified stories about the problems with sex trafficking, prostitution, drug deals, and shootings that the Airbnbs are known to have. I feel that there will be more calls to the city police department since the lake unit doesn't patrol 24/7. The most likely outcome is that we will have a party house less than 20 feet from our bedroom. And as we were moving into the house this fall, we discovered that my husband had a life-threatening illness, and he's been in and out of the hospital since August. A party house right next door is not conducive to his recovery, and I don't want to continually worry about who's next door, as criminal activities in the neighborhood damages the safety and character of the neighborhood. The house at 2830 is owned by someone who does not live locally and was purchased solely as an investment property, housing tourists. I'm also concerned about the management company, Care Management and Bookkeeping, to manage the property effectively.
You can keep going. You can keep going if you got some, if you got.
I've got
a few
another couple
things
more
to say. Yes,
paragraphs.
ma'am.
This bookkeeping company cannot be found online. Our community is being sacrificed for profit, and the charm and livability of the neighborhood is being eroded away. And if a party house is allowed next door, our lifestyle is forcibly being taken away. We are fine with a monthly lease, even a 12-month rental next door, just not one where people are in and out every few days. From our den, I don't even have to go outside. We can see 85 to 90% of the backyard next door, and we have an 8-foot privacy fence. So the fence doesn't block out the view, and it certainly won't block out the noise. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anybody have questions for Ms. Williams?
Ms. Williams, what was the address that you stated there was an Airbnb at?
37, hang on just a second.
3730.
3730.
I don't believe that's permitted. We can check that out with code compliance. Our code compliance, we would appreciate
Would
that.
anyone like to have the printout?
Our code compliance operates on mostly a complaint basis, so until someone has submitted a complaint, they're likely not aware of it, but we can send code compliance out there.
Okay, well, this was found online. I looked it up personally yesterday afternoon. The website was still up. You looking through there, you will not find the address. But if you get out Google Maps, they've got an outline of the house. And Google Maps, you can put an address on it. They will not give you an address unless you rent.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I appreciate your concern, and I think just to reiterate kind of what Candy and Brittany had mentioned earlier, this is obviously a conversation that comes up quite often, especially at the lake, with property being so close to each other. I think the city has written an ordinance with the intent of trying to regulate these as much as possible and to also create the opportunity for problem properties to be identified and dealt with. I will also add that, the staff has taken quite a few steps to try to identify properties like the one that you've identified that is operating illegally and go after them to make sure that they're complying with the ordinance, and if they're not, then to not allow them to
If
operate.
you want to pull up the picture of the house, you can see our back porch from your front view of your picture.
Understand. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Appreciate you coming and giving your thoughts.
And there's no other public comment for this one.
Okay? So no further public comment. I'll close public comment and open it up for discussion amongst the commission.
I know the lake area is a challenging area, but also reiterate too that if it does pass, and there are problems with partying or things like that, report it to the police department. That way there's a record of it, and then it doesn't get renewed the next year. We have to, if there's no major problems with the property, it's kind of hard to say no. But again, if there are problems with bad tenants, make sure you call the police department or code compliance so that it is recorded and we don't renew it. That is the good thing about STRs.
So I have a question as a new member of this commission. For those SCRs that were rejected, that were shown on the map, Do you guys have a recollection of why those were rejected?
Ray, can we go, Austin, one of you, just go back to the map?
I think one of them was because of the parking and the drive to it, but I can't recall all of them.
Yeah, the red one that's down off of, as I mentioned, I believe it was Joy Road. That one was, one house was, the backyard was the front yard of the other one. It was just a very unusual case, but again, the Green Star next to it was approved a few months after that because it met all of the codes that the city has passed. So.
Yeah, that property was pretty unique because there's a jog in the shoreline right there.
Yeah.
So they were sitting kind of like one in the other
Front yard.
backyard and
Yeah.
front yard.
And then the other red one, I can't remember.
I think that one may have been
that
either
Hillside?
parking and or access.
Yeah.
This was a really narrow, I think,
Yeah.
road
Yeah,
right in front of
I
it
think
and not very much
The
parking.
other red star over there was from parking.
Well, and as Ms. Albert was saying, she's new, and so we do have that ordinance that was written last year that has several items that city staff can bring forward as a revocation of a conditional use back to the board if there are issues and challenges. And as Ray mentioned earlier, that any of these, that if they are approved today, they will have to renew by June 1st, which gives us an opportunity to go back and check code compliance, police records, anything else that happens. And as some of y'all recall from the fall, our city council did give us some funding for some software to help track short-term rentals, as well as help with some enforcement and help the public with a public hotline that's open 24 hours a day. That is going to be coming online soon. We don't have an exact date yet, but we hope maybe at our March or April meeting, we'll have some updates for the community on that as well. So we understand the concerns. We also have a staff member that we've kind of converted from one role to another role that's going to help us with short-term rentals. That's within our buildings, permits and inspections. Mr. Mayberry is kind of a combination inspector. And so his role will be going out and dealing with issues like this, that if they become a problem, that he's able to go knock on doors and start trying to meet face-to-face with issues. Obviously, there are times that, as Ms. Williams mentioned, that this is a property owner that's not local, but we do require the local operator, and so we will have somebody local that will have to be answering those phone calls and taking accountability. One thing that might be helpful for you guys as well as the public is that we may be able to add those applications to the board packets, which are also available online, that shows who the operator, that kind of information. We have to just look to see what we have to keep hidden, what we can't, but obviously we want to ensure that the public and the board, that we are checking those items up for cases like this.
And I will say, I had Ray print the ordinance for us before the meeting, just so that you guys, being new to the planning commission, would have that in front of you, so you can kind of look at the guidelines that we've laid out as we kind of revisited this last year. And Aaron did a good job capturing, I think, a lot of the things that we added or tweaked last time. And I think, enforcement is obviously a key issue, because we had identified quite a few that were operating illegally and just kind of going around the system. And so we're trying to really crack down on that and go after those and get them shut down, so that they're having to come through the proper channels and comply with all the guidelines laid out in the ordinance.
I think that's real important, because those that do it per the ordinance and get their permit, and someone doing it on the side without getting a permit, we need to make sure that we have that in as much control as we can as we're getting that software, and can shut those down, make them apply like everybody else, so that it can be equal and not out there in the middle of nowhere, so with regards to the public who live around it.
I'll take a motion.
Y'all good with the discussion? Yeah. Okay, I'll move to approve as presented. I second.
Joe, motion, Patrick, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So, moving on to CU 2505, 130 Greer Street. SMD number 3, a request for a conditional use for a short-term rental located in a single-family residential RS1 zoning district at 130 Greer Street.
Thank you. Austin Reed, planner. This one is in District Number 3, Harry Thomas's district. The neighborhood is Glenmore. This lot is zoned RS1, and what we have is a request for approval of a conditional use for a short-term rental. As you can see from the photo, they do have the required parking, and they have passed all the required safety inspections. We mailed out 19 notices. I did not receive any in favor, and I believe we received one who was opposed, and I don't think that they listed anything specifically. Here's a look at the Glenmore neighborhood overall. The Blue Star is our current request, our subject property. We have 2 currently operating short-term rentals as represented by our green. We have 5 that have expired, and we have 0 that were denied. You may notice it's a little bit hard to see. There's a yellow star where our subject property is as well. This property did operate as a short-term rental previously, I think about 3 years ago. We did go ahead and check code and police on that, and there were not any reports that we were aware of. With that, we are recommending approval to our usual one condition that they must follow the conditions outlined in sections 406 and 804 of the zoning ordinance, and that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Austin? Do we have any public comment?
Nobody signed up.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and move to discussion.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve as presented by staff.
Second.
A motion by Brittany, second by Candy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, so moving to rezoning and comprehensive plan amendments. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings and amendments to the comprehensive plan. As we discussed earlier, our first case listed in the agenda has been withdrawn, so we'll move to PD 2407, 4673 Christoval Road, SMD number 1. A request for a zone change to a planned development from heavy commercial to an underlying mobile home subdivision zoning district, allowing 1 framed house and 1 manufactured home on 2 acres out of 13 acres located at 4673 Christoval Road.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Planning Commission. Aaron Vanoy, Director of Planning Development Services. As you recall, this case was tabled to have some more discussion between staff and applicants to try to come to something that might actually work to allow basically a manufactured home on this tract. So it is 2 acres out of a 13-acre tract. It is along Christoval Road, and you can see the backs up to Jackrabbit Trail. The zoning currently is heavy commercial, and the vision is commercial. It is in SMD1, Mr. Hebert, and it is in the Glenmore neighborhood. So as you can see here, there's an existing frame house and a barn, and they are looking to have a manufactured home in this area right in here. And you can see this hatched area that we have kind of created here. That is actually a 2-acre hatched area that would be carved out of this larger tract just for, in the 2 acres for basically household living that would allow a manufactured home and a frame house. The other thing, and I may have some other pictures, but there is, you can just barely see it here, but there's some under road drainage that comes across and creates in this dry draw some area that kind of weaves back in here. And so we point that out because that kind of is a natural buffer to anything that might come across as heavy commercial on this side of the property if they were to sell it at some point, or if they were to utilize the backside of the property. But I've got an image that shows the backside of the property that it may be decades before the backside of the property is ever used. So here again is the future land use with being commercial for that almost all of the western side of Christoval, from basically Chadburn all the way down to the connection with the loop. And then on the right side, you see the current zoning. And the challenge is for this area here that we are going to talk about for household or residential living, you do have light manufacturing just adjacent to it. While those properties are vacant currently, there's always the potential that something could move in. And so it is trying to balance out what we believe the future is going to be, what helps this property owner today. Do they know the risk? Are we mitigating the risk for these types of properties? So we did send out 12 notices. Again, we did get one in support right here. I believe that the family actually kind of works with them once in a while to kind of just keep an eye on their property, and so they've got a good relationship. There was another one that emailed in over the weekend. I don't remember the exact address, but they were also in support. But they emailed in over the weekend that they were in support of the property having an additional residence on it. So we're just going to go through a series of photographs. Christoval Road is currently going through a TxDOT improvement project. It's going to widen the road. That is an arterial road for our city. We know that a lot of folks do come that way and utilize it to get to whether it's Chadburn or going back out 277, 87, trying to get back to the south. A lot of deliveries potentially come down that road for Goodfellow Air Force Base. So we say that just saying that there is the potential for traffic. This was a picture that was taken last month. This is just their driveway. You can just kind of see that you can't really see back there, and so it's fairly well hidden back there from this vantage point. Here's just an adjacent property. You can see the manufactured home there. The frame house is here to the back. You can see they don't really have a porch yet. They just have steps, and that kind of comes into one of our conditions as if we choose to make the recommendation to go forward to city council, we would have some conditions that would do that. This is Jackrabbit Trail. As you can see, it would take a lot of improvement for this road to be even more usable, and that's why I say you can see the draw as it gets deeper down through here, that it may be decades before this area is utilized, and so that's also a consideration of this case of, all right, well, if they're going to use the rest of the property, maybe sell it off someday. They may never sell it off, but how is the rest of the property utilized in the decades moving forward? This is just where they're putting in those box culverts. You can kind of just barely see the existing culvert right in there. They're just kind of extending it over so the pavement can come over. But those are pretty good sized culverts, which could bring down more flow. It's hard to know. We know that that's one of the areas that they have some stormwater flow coming to, which is all trying to get back to the Concho River, back to the west. So the rationale, the vision plan for the area is commercial with adjacent industrial. That's actually to the east side of Christoval Road. Areas currently zoned for residential would be going away in the vision plan. I mean, areas that have some residential, over time, the anticipation is that those go away. However, that's not always the case in communities like ours and other communities. If someone were to buy the property and redevelop it completely, that may be their decision in the future. This is a property owner that's owned the property since, I believe, the 50s, maybe even before that. They've had the frame house there, which I believe was built in the 40s. They're actually trying to help a family member find some affordable housing, and that is a struggle that our community has had. The question is this the right place to put that affordable housing for that one family member? And is there ways to be able to deal with that additional housing? So under the current zoning for the heavy commercial, and in 2000 when the zoning ordinance was adopted, the household living for the frame house was legally obtained by a automatic conditional use. The challenge with this one is that we're dealing with a HUD manufactured home, and there are some state ordinances and some local codes that kind of say that you have to do these things before you can have a manufactured house. The one thing that is the way to work through this is to work through a plan development that would allow for the mobile home subdivision, which is different than a mobile home park. A mobile home park is where you have multiple manufactured houses come in and potentially RVs come in. Mobile home subdivision is for one manufactured home to come in and they own the property. They have to skirt it, those types of things. So what we did is that looked at the plan development and is it meeting the needs of the area? And while we say it's not meeting those commercial needs and those industrial needs, it is meeting the needs for this immediate family. I struggled with this a lot just because if I put my pure planning hat on, all the plans and everything say this is not the right application of our ordinance in the area. You put on the other hat that says, all right, you're a community member and you're trying to find affordable housing for communities, and this area is a large lot. It is 2 acres. It's not like you're cutting it up with a 50 by 100 or a 25 by 65 lot. So maybe it does make sense, and it is meeting an immediate need for affordable housing for family. The plan development is limited to the 2 residential structures. We would allow open structures in the future like carport and porches. And so when you saw those steps, we know that most people are going to actually want a front porch. They're probably going to want a back porch. They're probably going to want a carport. If you don't have certain zoning, then those things are harder to get. It's certainly far off the road. It's not visible. And so allowing those under the plan development makes sense, because if you're going to have another home there, it should be a livable home. It shouldn't just be, here's you a box and good luck. We think it's a reasonable request to have those types of things. While additional housing is not congruent with the vision plan on a large scale for the area, we think because the drainage conveyance is actually going to kind of separate those 2 acres off anyway, that it could accommodate the needs for this request. So currently, our recommendation from staff is approval for the 2 acres of land going from heavy commercial to a planned development with an underlying zoning of the mobile home subdivision, which allows that manufactured home at that property with the following conditions: that they obtain a building permit and correct utility connections for the manufactured home. They obtain a revised on-site sewer system permit, because those are septic systems out there from the Tom Green County Environmental Health. That they provide improved parking surface, and by improved, we're going to allow caliche stone or other surface. If they wanted to put asphalt or concrete, they could, but we also know this kind of acts like ranch and estate, and we allow that in ranch and estate, so it makes sense that we would allow that. They need to ensure that emergency services can access the site, ensure the skirting is secure and compliant with Section 501 of the zoning ordinance. We put in number 6, trying to reinforce that no occupiable structures can be built on this 2-acre tract, but that doesn't restrict the accessory buildings or the open structures. We're saying, please don't bring another occupiable structure. Let's not make another house on here. We would allow the paved connection to be under the ranch and estate, which allows the caliche drive as opposed to a asphalt or concrete drive. And then the accessory structures will be consistent with Section 402, because it does kind of act like ranch and estate. It actually gives them a little bit larger size. And that's mainly because they already have a barn on site, and we don't want to restrict them saying, okay, you have a barn on site. If you try to build a carport, you're going to go over your accessory size. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions and see if I can answer them.
Anybody have questions for Aaron? I feel like Candy's working on one.
Put it. I guess you answered my concern about another house being built on it or another mobile home being brought to that 2-acre tract. You said that in the compliance, they could not do that. And in helping the family with affordable housing. So am I to understand it's the owner of that large property is wanting something more by adding the mobile home to the house that's already there, so there would be two families? Or
Yes, the property
connected
owner,
families?
as I understand it, a grandparent or that lives in the frame house.
Okay.
This is a granddaughter that would be moving onto the property with their family.
Oh, okay.
They do own the full tract area. I know their applicant representative probably could speak to that a little bit better than I could, but yes, that is their intent. Now, the challenge with any zoning is, that doesn't mean they couldn't sell it tomorrow. I mean, we all know those things, and so we just have to use our best knowledge for these things. While we can put that condition on that you shouldn't move one on, we know that they already have it moved on, and that's what precipitated the case. And so I think they will understand and certainly agree that they would not do this in the future, but we can't control the sale of a land.
No.
And how do we minimize those areas and things to prevent it from continuing, I guess, is the thing. Now, one of the aspects of a manufactured home is that it is a movable home. That's different than, say, an industrial or a modular home, where they are affixed to a permanent foundation. Not that you couldn't move it with something, but, so that's another aspect of, that mobile home could be moved out at some point if necessary, but again, I struggled, I know, talking with staff and trying to get their input, again, from a pure planning standpoint and trying to protect all the other neighbors and properties. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but at the same time, we also have a reasonable effort to try to work with folks to try to make things right.
I know you can't predict the future, but by putting this little bit of that larger piece of property into a planned development, and the larger piece of property is still heavy commercial, is that what I understand? But you have that draw that goes through there, kind of as a buffer, but do you see by doing this now that they would have a hard time later on taking that off if they sold the whole and someone wanted to remove the residentials?
I don't believe so. If someone came in and they were wanting to go with the heavy commercial or something like that, or maybe if they, somebody adjacent that was light manufacturing, they bought that property, I think, based on the vision plan, I think that makes sense that we would move forward in that direction to rezone the property. I don't think that would be a hiccup for somebody that were interested in purchasing that property as a whole.
I just didn't want the owner to be completely stuck.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have questions for Aaron?
I have a question that kind of piggybacks on your question, Candy. So you're putting, if approved, you have this condition that they can't move an additional structure on there. But like you said, if it's approved, the property's sold, does that condition go away and then the next potential owner?
No, ma'am, that condition stays with the land because
Okay.
it is a zoning, and through the plan development, it would stay with the land.
Okay.
Now, your real question is that next owner going to know that condition is there? And that is a challenge that we face, particularly when we do plan developments or conditional uses, because they do stay with the land, is does the next owner know what those conditions are? I know we've worked with our local real estate group, and we've done some training with them, but it's always good to provide more training that anytime they have a question about a property that they might be representing, they're welcome to get a hold of staff. They can pull the reports, they can pull the approval letters and get those public documents to those folks. So we're always happy to do that, but I see your concern. I would say that we don't have a great way, not just our community, but any community that does processes like this. That's where straight zoning that doesn't have conditions is much more helpful to the community, because then you know what you can and cannot do. Where a planned development, we're able to modify some of the zoning ordinance to allow certain things or require certain things. So I understand your concerns.
What's it, 4675, just to the
I
south?
believe that is and I'm going to back up one, that is also that was the only other residence that we were able to find, and not that these are traditional blocks, but there is an older residence there. I believe it
Okay.
is occupied.
Yeah.
They were just outside the notifications zone, so we didn't really hear from them, but I think they are, they're familiar with their neighbors, maybe
Right.
is the right way to say it. I can't say friends because I don't know, but they're
Right.
familiar with their neighbors. And so that is another residence that also, just like them, has a legal conditional use for that frame house. And so they're able to continue that use until a change happens.
Okay, cool.
Okay. I think we're ready to move to public comment.
Russell Gully signed up. Oh, Jack Downey's also signed up. We'll do him first.
Good morning, Jack Downey, SKG Engineering. Thank you for hearing our case this morning. Thank you, Aaron and the staff working through this very difficult situation that we have there. I believe the question was correct. It is a grandchild that's wanting to live in the mobile home. I think they grew up with their grandparents there and they just want to live there. And their intent, at this time, and we never know what the future holds, but their intent is to keep it residential and to use that land. The drainage issue, there's just a lot of issues with that property. But they have approximately 18 acres. So there's a pretty good buffer there to the south. Again, another residence to the south, and then just a little bit there to the north, and then ranch and estate to the east. And from the pictures, you can see they've got a lot of trees and stuff around there that kind of give them a buffer as well from Christoval Road. And so, we think as difficult as this been, that's probably the best fit and the best answer to this question, to satisfy the city and the zoning and to allow these people to use their land, to the best of their benefit. If you have any questions, I'd like to answer those for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
That is it with public comment.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and open it up for discussion. I'm really struggling with this one, especially given our conversation at our last meeting regarding asking for forgiveness and trying to write code and ordinances that are easy to follow and easily enforced and consistent. Looking directly to the north, that's light manufacturing. All of the area, at least conceivably, would be developed in the future to be heavier commercial. Obviously, widening Christoval Road to handle more traffic and more commercial traffic is not ideal for a residential structure to be put there. I totally understand the fact that they were there before this was developed that way. And so I understand why you would have, I know you don't like this word, Aaron, but the existing house to be grandfathered. But, I just don't, I'm having a hard time supporting adding new structures and continuing that use when that's not what's around it at all, and especially given that it's pretty heavy commercial stuff going in on both sides of that road, and expecting that there will be more heavy traffic coming down that road with it being widened and the fact that it's an arterial road. So, it's an unfortunate situation, and I understand and I appreciate trying to work with them to make this work, and I think they probably got way too far down the road before realizing that they had an issue. And I can appreciate that, but really having a hard time getting there.
It's a challenging area. I work out there, and there's another house right down the road. There's one even further down the road. And so it was outside the city limits for a long time, and so you didn't have the scrutiny or challenges of having to do a lot of this stuff. So, but there is a need for low-income housing or you know, but they also have to be aware they can't move anything else in or do anything else without talking to somebody first. That's the big deal.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is the precedent that it sets for, the surrounding property, especially the one to the south that already has the residential structure on it. I mean, what's the, how can we justify not approving another PD in a similar situation on the neighboring property in the future if we did it here, especially if they moved the house in before they came to the city. So I don't really think it's a good idea to encourage that.
Okay. So I've got a little bit of a varying thought process on that. I mean, we had looked at it 2 months ago, and, it seemed like when they tried to do the right thing, the city had recommended the improvement in Jackrabbit, which for a single property owner truly doesn't make sense. Jackrabbit is a rural road that is for the general public, not frequented very often, unless they're avoiding the nightmare of construction on Cristobal Road right now. And, at that point, the city was trying to work with them. I think that although this isn't the ideal situation in our vision plan, at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with it. I just pulled up the COSA map right now, and you go further down Cristobal Road, and it's all CH. You've got a couple MHs, but there's a mobile home park when you turn in there, and that is in the middle of CH. Right. And, and that's actually at like a very busy point of people getting in and out of on the loop by that stoplight, and that doesn't look like a very maintained property. So I feel like this one homeowner or homeowner wanting to put another structure on their personal property for a family member, I don't see it causing an issue. I don't. And that's my opinion on this.
And I agree with that. Affordable housing is an issue in not only San Angelo, but across the state of Texas. So with the work that's been done with the planning department, Aaron, to accommodate affordable housing on a property that he being the owner lives on, it doesn't seem wrong to help with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think my mindset on this has changed a little. I think now knowing that the existing owner, I originally, when I looked at this, thought this was a new purchase. Given the circumstances of the family and that they have owned this property, and kind of like what Brittany said, I know that there is a mobile home park down the way. I feel a little bit more comfortable with what's being asked.
I'd say that I do tend to agree as well. A little bit more lean towards accommodating toward the family. I get that they put it in there before the approval was in, but the fact that they've lived there so long and owned the property and trying to take care of family, for me, that's kind of the way that I lean.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a plan development for the mobile home subdivision located at 4673 Cristobal Road.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion by Candy and a second by Brittany to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. That's 5-1. All right. That one is approved, so we'll move to Z 2505, 502, and 504 West Avenue V, Single Member District Number 3. A request for a zone change from single-family residential RS1 zoning district to neighborhood commercial CN for 2 properties located at 502 and 504 West Avenue V.
Thank you. Austin Reed, planner. This one comes to you out of the Rio Vista neighborhood. It is District Number 3, Harry Thomas's district. The vision plan here is neighborhood center. The subject property is around 1/4 of an acre. And what we have is a request to rezone from single-family residential to neighborhood commercial. There are 2 older residences, I believe, on site that the applicant intends to deconstruct and redevelop. Mailed 29 notices. As far as I'm aware, we did not receive any official responses. I think we received 1 phone call just asking questions. Here's a look at the current zoning on our left and then the vision plan on our right. For the current zone, you can see it's surrounded by a lot of single-family residential, but directly abutting it to the north, we have some office warehouse, and then to the south, we have more neighborhood commercial that this CN would connect to. On the right, you can kind of see that the Bryant corridor up and down in this area is envisioned to be neighborhood center, which falls comfortably with the current request. On to our staff rationale, we think this is compatible with the surrounding area. As I just mentioned, the frontage on major thoroughfare makes the CN zoning here appropriate. We think that approval of this zone change would help to promote the renovation of the property, and it could maybe provide some low-scale commercial that could serve the neighborhood. We also don't think that there will be any immediate adverse effects on the natural environment. So with that, we are recommending approval, and I'd be happy to hear any questions.
Do you have any questions for Austin? Do we have any public comment on this one, Ray?
The applicant is here, but I'm not sure that they were wanting to speak unless you had specific questions for them.
We also, is that Barbara Leva? That's the applicant, okay.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Do you want to speak?
No? Okay. So I'll go ahead and close public comment and open it up for discussion. Or entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Brittany, motion, second by Joe. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, 6-0. All right, moving on to subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to City Council. PP 2501, revised preliminary plat, Southland Hills, Block 35 through 40, SMD number 1. A request to revise a preliminary plat for Southland Hills Addition, Block 35 to 40, with a variance request for 2 lots on Walnut Hill Drive to front on a dead end.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Planning Commission, Aaron Vanoy, Director of Planning Development Services. This is a revised preliminary plat for the Southland Hills area. This is for Block 35 through 40. And so you see here on the screen on the left, this kind of pie-shaped area, but it really is this area along the, what I'm going to call the eastern side, comes up here and then goes along the Valley View side, that this is actually the preliminary platted area. These areas over here have been final platted and are waiting filing as infrastructure goes through and is completed. So it's really just the east side of that image. And when we show you the actual plat, I'll show some more demarcations on that. This is in District 1, Mr. Tommy Hebert. It is in the Bonham neighborhood. It does have a planned development zoning that I believe has an RS3 underlying zoning that allows for some certain types of housing, but it also allows for single-family housing as well. The vision plan is neighborhood. And so the variance is for 2 lots. It says on Walnut Hill Drive, but I think there's, we can show you that on one of the images. So this is the previously approved preliminary plat. Obviously, you can tell that lots of this area has been built out. Of course, Valley View right here has not been built out on the north or the south. They do have a plan in the future to come back in with a final plat to build that on the south side. It may spur the north side to do that, but there are no changes in that area right now. The major change is actually here. This is the intersection of Valley View, College Hills. College Hills going north is I believe it's a minor collector, it may be a major collector, and same with Valley View going all the way across is a major collector. But from the intersection south, College Hills is designated as a local road. We know that going down College Hills, it will not cross the railroad that's down here at the south of this. It's kind of that south border. And so the change is to right here, this is Maplewood Drive, and we'll show you on the next slide that they would actually terminate College Hills there and produce some circulation in here so that Stone Canyon, which is a collector street, is the collector that comes out, and whether you are able to access Valley View Drive in the future or up to Southland and come across from Southland and other areas. So let me go to this slide, which will, you can kind of see these areas right through here. That's kind of the areas that the final plats are to the west, the preliminary plats are to the east. You can still see the lots all coming through here. College Hills coming down to Maplewood, and then it would go into the neighborhood there. This is, I want to say Forest, and I think Walnut is down here, but I could be wrong on that. I could get those backwards. But this is where they're talking about having on a dead-end street the two lots. So while this will be dedicated to the city, it's not going to be built out as a full road. It's going to be utilized as drainage for some of the area, and same as here. But these lots will still have access, public access to the public right-of-way and a paved connection to the roadway to get out. So we did do kind of a closer area here, just kind of showing that it's the unobstructed drainage. If there's a reason in the future for the city or the developer to the east to make those road connections, that would still be able to be done in the future. You can go back to this larger slide here. This one large piece of property is zone RM1. It still has lots of frontage on Valley View, lots of frontage on College. And again, if they chose to have these two connect, or just one connect, they could have that. But as you can see, based on the arc of this road, it's coming down at a pretty significant arc. This is coming across to where some drainage areas here. And so those are going to terminate together at some point if they were roads. And at this point, the city just does not see a massive need for those connections and the future maintenance of those at this time. So with that, we recommend approval on the preliminary plat revision with the two conditions. Submit for recording with the city of San Angelo, and prior to plat recordation, a preliminary drainage study be submitted to our engineering services for them. A couple of notes of things that will happen in the future final plats. They will have to notate the fire hydrants and fire department access. And they are working with our engineering services and our real estate office of dedicating easements for utilities that actually fall outside of a final plat at this time. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Aaron? No. Okay, we have public comment.
Russell Gully.
Thank you, Aaron.
Good morning, Russell Gully with SKG Engineering. Would ask for your approval and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Got 4 minutes and 55 seconds left. All right. There's no more public comment. I'll close public comment and open it up for discussion with the staff.
I'll make a motion, if there's no comment from staff, from the commission, make a motion to approve as presented by staff.
Second.
A motion by Brittany, second by Joe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. So that one is approved, 6-0. Moving on to, we need to read, Are we doing these separately? I should have read those two.
This is the final plat.
Okay.
We didn't want to necessarily bring them both at the same time, but we're now at the final plat for
Okay.
section 26.
Okay, so related to the previous case, this is FP 2501, Southland Hills Edition, Section 26, SMD number 1, a request to final plat 13 new residential lots across 2.478 acres as part of PD 2203 within the Southland Hills subdivision.
Thank you, Chairman, Planning Commission, Aaron Vanoy, Director of Planning Development Services. So this is just the continuation of a final plat here on the southern end that will kind of complete the loop from Section 25, which is areas over here. Currently, there are homes being built on Stone Canyon with a road coming in here. There's a road going that way, and then, of course, this southern road, and now there'll be another loop just in this area that there'll be lots on either side. Again, District 1, Mr. Tommy Hebert, in the bottom neighborhood under the plan development and a vision plan of neighborhood. So you can see here that Forest Hill Drive at the top and Walnut Hill Drive at the bottom, they will actually kind of meet there. All of these actually meet the fire department's hammerheads standards, and so they're able to come in and still service these lots at the top as well as the bottom with all of their emergency services. What it essentially does is this island that was here that had a road at the back no longer has a road at the back, and actually makes them more compliant instead of them having double frontage road, 2 front yards at the front and the back. Makes them a lot more buildable in this configuration. And so it's adding 13 lots to this area that is currently developing very well, and with the building products that they're putting on top of the ground seem to be a product that our community is looking for all the time. So they are working on the roads. Again, they are dedicating the 50-foot right-of-way through that preliminary plat. They'll be doing the paving of the 50-foot paving width with curb and gutter. They're going to be dedicating tracks B and C, dedicated as drainage to the city. And there is required 25-foot building setback from the railroad property for the southern two most lots. And it appears that they actually have that they just couldn't have structures. It's something that our subdivision mentions down here for these lots down in this area. So with that, staff does recommend approval with the 6 conditions and 1 note. Again, the tax cert, revised plat indicating the 25-foot unobstructed building setback from the rear property lines for lot 22 and 23, the construction plans, the installation of water main and required services for each lot, and then the installation of sewer main and required services for each lot, and then a final drainage study. Again, the note of tracks B and C will be clarified on the final plat that they are being dedicated to the city of San Angelo. With that, are there any questions for staff?
Do you have any questions? All right, thank you, Aaron. Go ahead and open public comment. Mr. Gully.
I need no introduction, right? Happy to answer any questions and would ask for your approval. Most likely, this will be done pretty much in conjunction with Section 25. We just need to kind of get this preliminary plat thing settled out before we brought this one forward. So construction-wise, it's going to run pretty much with Section 25. So would ask for your approval and happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions? All right, thank you, Russell. All right, I will go ahead and close public comment and open it up for discussion.
I move to approve as presented.
Joe?
Second.
Second by Brittany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That one passes 6-0. All right. Next case is RP 2501, third amended replat lots 3 and 4 of Pete's Valley Estates. SMD number 1, a request to amend the third replat of Pete's Valley Estate, third amended replat, lots 3 and 4, block 1, section 1, being under single-family residential RS1 zoning district located at 1642 and 1658 Wildflower Trail. Also, a variance request to not abut a public right-of-way.
So Ray Lineberry, planner again. Excuse me. So this is a amended replat, the third amended replat. It is in District 1, Tommy Hebert. It's the Country Club neighborhood. It is zoned RS1, and the vision plan is neighborhood. They have requested a variance to not abut a public right-of-way. I tried to zoom out on this overhead picture to show you that the property is back from Ben Ficklin, which is the public right-of-way. And I'm gonna, so this is the plat, and they have a private road, which is the Wildflower, that goes from Ben Ficklin back to their property. So they do have access. It is just not abutting a public right-of-way, which is the variance. It was previously approved, so the plat is amending the property line up here on the curve to follow that private drive. The previous plat had it go through a driveway. So staff is recommending approval of the variance and the replat. They have to provide a tax cert and provide confirmation of the septic tank. And then the notes are that if they increase the impervious surface more than 5%, a drainage study will be required. And then all private utility locations need to be confirmed that they are within the utility easements that are on the plat. With that, is there any questions? Jack with SKG.
Good morning, Jack Downey, SKG Engineering. Thank you for hearing our case, and we ask for your approval. Kind of one of those things that's been that way since the early 90s, and we went out and did a survey and found out that there were some issues with property lines and buildings, and somewhere that it was supposed to have been replatted, it never got recorded, and so we're just trying to fix that and get something straightened out so it's all right. We appreciate your concern. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those for you.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Downing?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'll go ahead and close public comment and move to discussion, just a cleanup, boundary cleanup.
Make a motion to approve as presented by staff.
Okay,
Second.
a motion from Brittany and a second by Patrick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 6-0. All right. Move on to our final subdivision plat. It is RP 2503 Town and Country Business Park Addition, Block 2, SMD number 1, a request for first replat of Town and Country Business Park Addition, Block 2, located at Town and Country Drive in South Jackson.
Thank you, Kim Garmany, Planning and Development Services Administrator. We are in District 1, Tommy Hebert's district in the Rio Vista neighborhood. The current zoning of this property is CGCH with a vision plan of commercial. The applicant has applied for a revised preliminary plat. Oh, that's not correct. That's the same one from the other one. This is, yes, this is a, thank you. This is a first replat, yes. This is the previously recorded final plat. You can see things are quite different from where they are now. The property has been separated into two lots. So this is the lot 2, or the block 2, you'll see on the right. And we are recommending approval of this first replat with 7 conditions. Of course, the tax certification, floodplain development permit is required. A drainage study is required. Necessary water and wastewater services are required to be installed. Sidewalks constructed within the row. So the sidewalk construction plan will need to be submitted for approval. Also, the same comment that we've had on a lot of the other plats, fire hydrants and fire department access may need to be provided. And then there was one discrepancy between the legal description and what is on the plat. It looks like the legal description is 2.818 acres, but on the plat, it is listed as 2.6 acres, 2.68 acres. So we would need them to clarify and correct that. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions? All right.
And we have either Erica or Blake, whichever.
Hello, everybody. My name is Blake with Wilde Engineering Services, or Engineering Surveying. Guess I just have a question. Can you go over the sidewalk requirement and where that's, what it's pertaining to, so I make sure that I'm fully aware?
Sidewalk requirement is along Jackson.
Just along, that's just along Jackson itself, not along any of the other portions?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Well, then, yeah, I don't have any other comments or questions. Y'all have anything for me?
Have any questions for Blake? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilding. You have any other public comment on this case? Okay, so I'll go ahead and close public comment and take it to discussion or vote.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Brittany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's 6-0. All right, so I think that's the end of our case, so we'll move on to the director's report. Mr. Benoit.
Thank you again. So this is just a quick update of where we stand on the cultural district and again, then the sign ordinance amendments that are moving forward as directed by City Council. So we do have a cultural district expansion that we've been working with the committee for about 8 months, going all the way back into 2024, that working on expanding it from what is really right around the Fine Arts Museum, this little section in here, to this red bordered area here, starting right here that you would be at Abe Street, coming down to Highland, going across Highland, back to Rust Street, and then going back up here and where Rust Street and Allen Street kind of turn in together, and then across the little property line right there, back to the river, and then follows the riverbank around to that area. This has been in the 2003-2009 vision and strategic plan to update the cultural district. Was a plan of the Fine Arts District to do that as well, to match their district, and so we're getting very, very close. You can see that we have a mixed zoning in this area, and I've got an image that will show that in just a second, from light manufacturing, heavy commercial, general commercial, office commercial, neighborhood commercial, RS1, I should say RS1 and RS2, but looks like I got happy with RS2, but it's as well as RM1 in the area. What this will do will actually create a cultural district overlay zone, so similar to our central business district, which is to the north of this area. This will create a cultural district overlay zone, and which we would call CD. It would allow general commercial, neighborhood commercial, office warehouse, office commercial, and all residential districts. Most of the properties in here are SMD number 3, Mr. Harry Thomas, but there is just a little sliver. This area between the two roads, between Cohenheim and Abe, is actually SMD number 5, Karen Hesse Smith, and that's also where Santa Rita stops on its eastern side and where Fort Concho begins their neighborhoods. So here is the cultural district with the current zonings. You can see there along the railroad, there's significant kind of light manufacturing that kind of comes through there. Going through that area, there's only one use that we could find that is actually maybe light manufacturing, but there could also be general commercial or heavy commercial. And so what we have done for that property is they will be legal moving forward. And if somebody else came in and said they wanted to try to get something that might be more light manufacturing or something like that, we would allow a conditional use to come and be heard at Planning Commission. You can see there's a lot of CGCH as well. In the 2003 vision plan, it's been determined by that city council and city councils after that we should remove the CGCH whenever we can. There are some light, heavy commercial that we also think fit better into general commercial, but primarily the cores are general commercial. The ones that are acting as maybe a combination of light manufacturing or heavy commercial are really acting as warehouses. And that's why we want to add the office warehouse use that currently isn't allowed in there, but they kind of have some of those uses over there so that we're actually helping those uses be used. You can see that Fort Concho has a planned development. We are reviewing that planned development to see if there's anything there that needs to actually change. We're not 100% sure why it went to a planned development, but we're researching that, just trying to see if there's a way to allow it by right so that as they change their site, if they change their site, they wouldn't have to come back for amendments in the future. Most of the residential is RS2. There was a little bitty piece, and I'm trying to find exactly where it is on the map, but I believe it's right over here in this area that is RS1, and the back of those lots for some reason were RS1. This is also the area that abuts RM1, and there were discussions during the short-term rental process that this area really should probably turn to something that short-term rentals could be allowed. And so that's where we're changing that to where all household living styles are allowed, and we would allow short-term rentals by right for this area. I'll go with the vision plan. Again, you can see most of the areas over here in purple. That's the downtown vision plan that comes across. So that's very compatible with the creation of the cultural district overlay zone. Again, you can see pockets of neighborhood in here. You can see pockets of neighborhood commercial through the major corridors. And then this is just kind of commercial in these commercial areas that are through here. Again, there's a few warehouses in this area up in here and along down in here. There's some warehousing. There's also some automotive type businesses that we would allow to continue to move forward. It's interesting that we saw that this area is industrial, and I'm guessing that has to do with the city-owned properties and the AEP-owned properties going to the south in that area. But we also know that that's where Fort Concho Elementary is close to that area. And if we can allow some more redevelopment of housing in that area to support that elementary school, we think that would be a good move for the city. So again, some of the reasons why is protecting some of our assets from Fort Concho to the Fine Arts Museum. Our Welcome Center is in this corridor, which is, by the way, the number 1 Welcome Center in the state of Texas. So we're very proud of that for the Chamber of Commerce. You also have the Paseo del Santa Angela over here. That is a great facility that community members meet. Lots of cultural events can happen there. It goes down through to the river, and so we think that's a fantastic asset that we want to continue to support and protect in the cultural district. We have the Railroad Museum. We also have the beautiful facility that's our municipal pool, and that to me is one of the most stunning built properties that we have on the south side that most people don't celebrate because you're just going there for the pool, but it's actually a very beautifully architecture designed building for that area. So what we're trying to do with the cultural district overlay expansion preserves, protects, and celebrates and brings our San Angelo community together. The area will be similar to our central business district zoning, but will allow office warehouse uses and will allow all residential zoning districts, even with some smaller lots. And as we go through that over time in the next month, we'll let people understand what that is. The goal for the area is to help support the placemaking icons in San Angelo and support the historic downtown with history, arts, cultural events, music, and housing for San Angeloans and visitors. Our next steps, next week on March the 4th, there's a town hall meeting scheduled, and letters have been sent out to all of the properties that we'll have this town hall meeting so that we can discuss with them any concerns they have, any ideas they have, anything that we need to change. They will have access to the draft ordinance as well. That's going to be at the San Angelo Fine Arts Museum at 6 p.m. On March the 4th. We also have that day that we are proposing at City Council that morning on March the 4th to have a joint meeting with Planning Commission and City Council to hear this ordinance. The date that we will propose is April the 1st. So that gives a good full month for everybody to talk about it, see if there's any things that are concerning, see if we need to have any final drafts. That would be the first reading, and then there would be a second reading in April. Our staff is going to be posting the draft ordinance online. It will be online by tomorrow afternoon. It will have contact information so that citizens can comment via email, by telephone. They can come to the town hall meeting. They're welcome to come into our office as well and give us comments of what they see. But that's where we're headed with the cultural district. I know that we will have all that background information up and what the cans and can'ts are for that district. And what we want to do is continue to help that part of San Angelo start thriving. While we know it's a 10 to 20, maybe even a 30-year plan, that we can help with maybe some residential density, that we can help with small businesses coming in there and maybe modifying some of the residential structures into a small business, as well as maintaining the commerce that we have in that area to help support our community. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. All right.
Excuse me, I don't know if we can have public comment, but somebody has signed up for public comment for this
I
one.
don't see why not. I mean, they're welcome to.
Russell?
Oh, you said it's Russell?
Yeah. No? Okay.
Should have asked that question first.
Never mind. He said never mind.
He declined. Well, the next update I have is on our sign ordinance. This was directed by our city council to bring something back to them within 6 months after the December meeting, December 2024 meeting. So we've had a committee that's been meeting here recently to start talking about this. The amendments have been in the works ever since some court cases came about based on off-site versus on-site signs. Our current ordinance doesn't have a designation of billboards, but that's what in our mind was what off-site signs were billboards based on size. And what we're trying to do is actually come into a better place of really defining what a billboard is so that folks that want a billboard or want to place a billboard, they actually know what the rules are and things like that. And so that's the major impetus of what we're doing. We are doing some cleanup. We are creating an electronic message sign definition, which we currently don't have. We'll talk about some limitations on illumination, and that's particularly at night or how close some signs might be to a residential area. Our current sign height is by zoning, and as you guys know, you just saw through the cultural area, there's lots of different zonings, and so every 200 feet, that sign height might change. Well, if it's by street classification, it might be more consistent because the street typically doesn't change classification in short increments. And then there's a request to try to limit the number of banners and how long banners are in the design districts that Design and Historic Review Commission have some oversight. And so that's our historic district and historic overlay, our river corridor, our cultural district, and our downtown district. On the left side, going back to billboards, so these purple are what we would call the billboard corridors. And so that allows billboards by right based on separation between the distance of the billboards. And so you can see most of our major roadways coming in has a billboard corridor or around our loop. And these areas, the yellow dots are where billboards have been issued in basically the last 5 years, four plus years. And so you see these two up here. Those probably were issued because of their zoning. because currently the zoning allows, certain zonings allow billboards as well, not just the corridors. I took some pictures yesterday. I must have been hungry because most of my pictures have to deal with food. I don't know, but we see that. Most of us automatically think, well, that's a billboard, but probably by size, it's not. A billboard has to be over 250 square feet. The interesting thing, the reason why it caught me is that's kind of in the cultural district. You can see the Railroad Museum behind it. But one thing that we always talk about is boarded buildings. You can see this building is starting to get boarded and potentially a dangerous building, and yet the property owner is getting some benefit by having a sign with a sign company to advertise, but not maintaining their building. Separate issue than signs, but I just thought it caught my eye. Again, there's some more food in the image. This one, outside of the cultural district, it's on the south side of town. It is a repurposed building. They are trying to make it bright and attractive just with paint colors. One thing that we've always struggled with in our community are these things, and as you drive around, you will see more and more of these things popping up. They are addressed in our current ordinances by air-activated signs. I mean, they are designed for the air to flap them, and so they're an air-activated sign. And so technically they're prohibited, but you will see them all over town. Just another example. Here's along Avenue L, and you can just see lots of them, but there's also lots of other signs. Blue Agave's got a nice sign there that's pointing towards Avenue L, so as you're driving down, but it's not super aggressive, it's not over imposing. Same with the South San Angelo Plaza. You can see La Esperanza's got a sign over here, and so, then I thought, well, I saw Candy out there, and I said, well, we might want to make sure that Candy's pictured. But this is just a typical billboard that we see on one of our corridors. It has, as you can see, it's got 4 signs. We've got 2 that are facing basically to the west, and then you've got 2 that are kind of facing down 2 streets. But it is appropriate. It's not a digital sign. They're not. They are the right size, and those types of things. And then we do see real estate signs. The only reason I took this picture is because I know this building, the front of the building is at the property line. But as we think about signs, everybody wants to get it as close as they can to the road. Of course, our ordinance says that's prohibited. Our current ordinance says that. And this is probably bigger than most real estate signs are allowed. But again, that's just one of the things that we work with, trying to help our community. So through our process, we've been under a kind of a moratorium set by City Council to not make a designation between off-site and on-site. It seems to be working, and so we don't propose to change that. We just propose to say, all right, billboards have a certain classification and can be located in a certain place. So if you have a billboard on your property, there's no prohibition from advertising on it, as opposed to us saying, well, that's also an on-site sign and you can't advertise on that on-site sign. And so that's kind of the thing that has been changed. And so it had some court cases, those have been resolved, so we're able to move forward with ours. We know that locations of billboards are important to our community for major safety decisions. As those billboards over time turn to digital, the closer they are to major intersections and higher speed traffic, that makes an impact, and so we want to be aware of that. And we also know that us being the visual arts capital of Texas, we don't want to be known for billboards, we want to be known for our visual arts. Again, the heights of signs, we're looking at modifying to use the classification of roadways for better transition and continuity. And then we certainly want to be reasonable with our sign regulations so that we can still assist small businesses and regional businesses to continue to draw customers into their business. We understand signage is advertising. We don't want to place staff or reviewers in the position of having to read the sign to interpret it. We want to just, here's location, here's how many you can have, those types of things. The design of the Design and Historic Review Commission, they also don't look at content. They're just looking, does it match the style for the structure? Does it match the size for the surrounding areas? They're not making content decisions. And so we're very strong and cohesive on that point.
Erin, can I ask one quick question?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in regards to the Quick Hint case that we heard on Abe a couple months back, how does
Yes.
this sign change affect them? Like, can they come back since they had two signs, or was it because it's digital that it doesn't affect them?
There would be nothing in our ordinance that's changing that would impact that case in a different way.
Okay.
It would still be that for freestanding signs, whether they're a pole sign, monument sign, all the freestanding sign categories, if you're between 1 foot and 199 foot of frontage, you're allowed to have one.
Okay, thank you.
What would be different is if that property was zoned or in the billboard corridor, that their size could be big enough to be a billboard. But I don't believe they are in that scenario at this, because I think they're central business district, and I don't think they're zoned for that. So our next steps, I think we have a March 13th town hall meeting for signs, and we are sending out invitations to sign companies so that they can come and give us some comments and feedback. It will be located at the Tom Green County Library at the Stevens Central location, which is the downtown location, on 6 p.m. We will also have this ordinance posted online for citizens as well as sign companies to comment. They're able to comment to us by email, phone, or town hall, or coming in. We also will be presenting on March the 4th that this case will come forward at that joint meeting because it does deal with trying to remove zoning out of the sign ordinance and put just sign stuff in the sign ordinance. But we will bring that to City Council on March the 4th to request a joint meeting. Yes, we will request the joint meeting to be April the 1st. Yes, ma'am. With that, is there any questions? Does Mr. Gully would like to? Great job.
So that does it for the planning director's report, and our next regular meeting of the planning commission is scheduled to begin Monday, March 24th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the East Mezzanine in City Hall at 72 West College Avenue.
So I did want to add, since you just read that your guys' next meeting is March 24th, and then if the joint meeting gets passed, you will have another one the next week, April 1st, at the convention center as a joint meeting. And then you will still have your April 17th? April 17th meeting. 21st, sorry. I looked at March. April 21st meeting. So you will have 3 meetings coming up.
All right, it's exciting. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Patrick and Candy. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. It is 10:49.